I'm going to hit the record button so that we can upload this presentation to the website later. And today we're going to be talking about surname mapping. And this is, as I mentioned earlier, this is a part of a presentation I did earlier this week to a group in Utah. And it's only a couple slides, but then we'll actually get into the web page. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to share my screen. Let's see, whoops, share, there we go. Okay, so there we go. So surname mapping is a way to give you an idea of the distribution of a surname within a region. Okay, so it shows where the surname is found and it shows the frequency of that surname in those locations. So this can help you focus your research. So a lot of times you'll have a census record and it says that your great grandfather immigrated from Germany. Well, that's great, but you know, it's not really helpful. Where in Germany would he have immigrated from? And if you're not able to actually find the records that tell the state or the city or the village, you know, you're stuck with looking through Germany. And there's, you know, millions and millions of pages of records in German research. So you're never going to find that record unless you get very lucky. Well, these surname mapping sites, they use sources like census records and directories to locate these surnames and map them out. So here's an example. You know, they used to put these in books. So here's an example of Irish surname map. And I shrank it, I got a little corner of it. But my wife has a family group that comes out of Mayo. So County Mayo is down here. And her family from here is Churchill. Well, you know, I would have to go through and look all throughout all of these names that are situated all over this map to see if Churchill shows up, you know, to see where they may come from. And, you know, these aren't very exact. These are just lists of names that come from that region. But that's what they used to have. And they still do, you know, for many countries. But now a lot of these surname mapping tools are going online. So one of the sites is known as GeoGen. Okay, so it's geographic genealogy. That's what GeoGen stands for. And the purpose of it is to show where those names may be. So here, this is an example of one of the German surname sites. This is legacy.stopel.net. This is an early version of the GeoGen for Germany. I'll show you this version and version 4. So you can see the difference, but you can access it this way if you're interested in it. So if you look here, I did a search on the name Garman, G-A-R-M-A-N-N, which is one of my family names. And these are the results that I get. So you can see the distribution of the Garman surname within Germany. So what does this tell me? Well, it tells me that this bright red area is where most of the Garmans are located. You see this orange area right north of that, that's the second most common location. And you see these yellow areas in that general region. So this is going to help me narrow down my search because I'm not going to be looking in the southern part of Germany for Garmin. You know, there's not enough of them there. I'm going to be looking in this northwestern region of Germany. The other great thing is it tells me that the Garmin name can be found in Steinfurt, in North Rhine-Westphalia, and that's where it's most commonly found. And then it tells me that in Schleswig-Holstein area is where it's least common. So now I've got some great information there that'll help me search.
Miles, I have a question.
Yes.
There are variant spellings, different spellings.
Right.
How do they, is there some kind of a place to go to find a standard spelling when there are multiple spellings?
Yeah, so if I go to the GeoGen version 4 and I type in Garmin, this is the map I get, and it still shows that same area. But over here on the left, on the right side of the map is a surname diagram. And it starts out with Garmin, but then it has all of the variations of the spelling surrounding the name that you're looking for. And so you can click on these variations and it'll show you where those variations are located within the country. So, you know, there's German and Gorman and Carmen. And so you can click on those and they may be located in different regions of the country. So this will help you. And I'll demonstrate all of these websites as we get into this. The other thing is you have a nice QR code up here, so you can, you know, click it with your camera, or you can send somebody that QR code and they can click it and they can see it. And then you have a nice map showing the distribution, you know, where it's most commonly found. So you get a lot of great information. The other thing it says up here in the hints, under statistics, it says name accessed 54 times in the last 24 days. So that means that 54, this name has been searched 54 times in the last 24 days. So you know that other people are searching for it. So how do you find these? Well, I'm going to do one more for England here. This is England and Wales. And so each of these different websites, you know, they have different countries that they work on and they have different record sets. Notice this one has 1841, 1851, 61, and so on. So it's using the 1841 to 1911 censuses to map the name. And at the title here, it says Coker. So I was doing a research, you know, looking for my wife's family Coker name in this area. And so the color coding tells you where it's most commonly found, but then they also have the regions listed to the side here with the occurrence data. So you can see that in Buckinghamshire, it's 116, but in Cambridgeshire, it's only 1, you know, so you can sort them by the numbers that is most common. London has 160. Okay. So now you know where to narrow your search for. And further down on this page, it also gives you the meaning of the name and the occupations that that surname is associated with. So based on those censuses, it says, you know, that 5 of the Cokers were bakers and 10 of the Cokers were blacksmiths or whatever it may be. So it tells you that bakers and blacksmiths and other occupations were held by people with the last name Coker. So how do you find these surname mapping sites? Cindy's list gives you a short list of a few of them. So you can see there's Celtic, there's GeoGen for the German ones, there's the Irish maps. There's surname distribution analysis and mapping, surname origins, surname world. This is 10 million last names and gives you the countries and language. And then Italy. So there's some things here on Cindy's list that are helpful. The Family Search Wiki. If you go into the wiki and type in surname distribution maps, you're going to get a whole list of surname distribution maps that are available. And you can go down that list and find the countries you're looking for. So you see Germany down here at the bottom. You see worldwide. There's a couple of them up here at the top. There's one that has 237 countries in it, one that has 26 countries, and then, you know, individual countries also. And then ISOG, which is the International Society of Genetic and Genealogy, on their wiki, they have a short list also of surname maps, countries with surname maps. So you can see Argentina and British Isles and France and Germany and Poland and United States. So these are all, you know, sites that can help you find the surnames that you're looking for. So I'm going to pop out of that and I'm going to stop sharing. And we're going to share the I don't want to share the screen. I want to share. Let's see. Give me 1 second here. Okay, let's try this. Oops. There we go. Okay. Can you see the Cindy's List page?
Yeah.
Okay. So I showed you the one for the Irish maps. right here. And again, this is a print map. So I can click on the map here and see it. But it has, it has a list of names and things on the side, the locations. Let's see. So there's the different surnames that are on the map. And notice Churchill isn't on there. But again, this is just a print map that you can get a copy of.
Affinity.
What's that?
I saw affinity. I have affinities in my mother's father was Italian.
Okay. Yeah. See, there's Italian maps. There's world maps. If I click on this world map one, we're gonna hope that it pulls up here. Yep. That one's not working. That one's not working either. This is the problem, with websites. You never know if the sites are going to work. You go to the GeoGen mapping. And this is the legacy version. So, if I type in my Westerheide, it gives me this nice little chart here about where it's located. You see the majority of them, 62% are in North Rhine-Westphalia. There's 270 entries all over Germany. 720 people with this name based on the total population. So it's not very common. It's the almost 15,000th ranked name in Germany, 14,898 ranked name. If I go to the absolute map, it shows me the distribution. And again, you see this area up in here, that's the most common. And I can put my mouse over these areas. Let's pop off here. And you see Bielefeld. Can you see the pop up there? It says Bielefeld.
Mhm. Mhm.
Or if I go over here, it's Lippe. Here it's Osnabrück. So it's telling me, where I should do my search based on the states that are there. I can download this map so I can use it in my own research and, add it to my documents. The relative map, this is the, let's see. So this is telling me the relative name distribution of the information. So this absolute map was telling me how many names. So, there's more than 60 if it's this dark brick red. This bright red here, it's between 45 and 60. So in Bielefeld here, there's between 45 and 60 people with that name. Over here, there's between 30 and 45 in Osnabrück. The relative map gives it based on the population that's there. So, it's how many times is this name per million people in that area? And then you have different links to, other common names, other country maps where you may find it. So the Netherlands, Belgium, and so on. Okay. If you go to Family Search and look at their surname distribution maps, you see all of these maps here. And so for Germany, you have the Geoten Stoppel, and you get a couple new ones. And so here, this is Kartsnumen. And this one here, I want to type in my Westerheide again and do the search. So now you see it's giving me the locations where this name is present. And you see it based on the circle size. So there's a fairly large circle right here with a couple small circles in between, and then some other small circles here, and then smaller circles as you go down. So, you get a little bit more detailed distribution here where these names are located. But that's as good as the map gets. You just have this map here to show you the information. And, if you want to, I can put it in English. Close. Okay, so now it's in English, and I type in. So it tells me, that that's 143, but doesn't do much different. So I'm going to go back over here to the third one, and this is the NVK site. And I'm going to type in Westerheide. Now I have a choice between 1890 and 1996. Okay, so I want the oldest version. I'm going to hit 1890, and you see the distribution start to show up here. And this is as far as I can zoom in, but you can see in Bielefeld where those names are located. Over here in Lippe by Detmold, there's a few more here, a couple down here, in these different locations. Osnabrück has just a few around it. Now, if I say, okay, how has this name changed distribution in the last 100 years? I can then click on it, and now you see the 1996 names. And you see they're spread out a little bit more, a little more in this direction also. And then a couple over here in Berlin. Notice that there's still some over here in Poland from 1890. There's a couple down here in Dresden. There's actually one all the way down here in Austria. Nothing in the United States. So I guess this is only just European region that it's looking at. So, you get a different view of it going in this direction here. And you can see where the families are located and use those for references for your next bit of research. Notice that some of these, like Ireland, there's some paid subscriptions in there. If we go to the world map, we can type in Westerheide. And you see it's the 343,000th most common surname in the world. That's why I like using it, because it's not very common. But now you can see where it's located. That's interesting. There's one in Thailand. And we can zoom in, and you can see there's, two of them in Spain, 706 in Germany, one in Austria, one in the Netherlands. Go back over here to the United States. There's 356 in the US, ranked 74, about 75,000th most common name in the US. There's one in Canada. And you notice here that I'm doing it by year, so I can, it says 2014. Let's try 1880. And notice it comes up with the United States from the 1880 census and nothing over here. Also, you get this great information down here with the countries, the frequency, and then the rank in each of those countries. And then you get some demographics. So the average salary for a Westerheide in the United States was $53,000. So you see how your family's doing in relationship to the United States. A lot of little statistical bits of information. Where does it come from? Information about the name and the trends with the name. And then various statistics, and then variations on the name. And I find these Westerheides with the Y quite often. There's with an I, there's with an R at the end, and you can click on those names, and it gives you the distribution of those names and that information associated with it also. So, these are pretty useful websites to help you get some information. The ISOG-Gen website, if I go down here and go to Germany, you see they have the GeoGen, then they have the digital dictionary of German surnames, and then the surname distribution from the telephone directories. So I'm going to click on, actually, let me do this backwards. I'm going to go back to Germany here, and I'm going to open this in a new window, new tab. So you can see here, this is the digital dictionary of surnames in Germany. And I go to Westerheide. You can see here, it tells me a frequency of the name. And when I click on it, it just tells me where it's most common. And then it tells me this named after a residence to Middle Low German Wester, meaning the west or westward in the west, and the Low German Heide, undeveloped land, someone who lives in or on the heath in the western part of Germany. So the Westerheide surname is a geographic location. So it's the western heath lands in Germany and the family that lived there. And then you see the distribution map again, where you can see, where it's most commonly found. And if I click on the map, I can now, zoom in and see the map a little bit larger. And again, you can copy that.
Miles, I have another question.
Yes.
We know if you go back before 1800, there were many variations in spelling, because if it sounded right, it was okay.
Yeah.
And so I found my ancestors used different spellings. And for listing them alphabetically, I've tried to standardize the spelling, at least within certain date ranges.
Yeah.
So that the people who are related will be shown next to each other in my alphabetical listing. I don't know whether you have any tips on that, but I have several ancestors who changed their names. I'm not quite sure what I should do, whether I should list them under the name before it was changed or after it was changed.
Yeah, I tend to list them. In like Family Search, you can list them with multiple names. So you put one name up in the top, and then you have alternate names down below in the additional information. And so, there may be like a birth name, and that birth name would be what's on their baptism record or the birth record. And then there's the name that they went by, which I would usually use that out of their marriage record or their death record, their funeral record. And if that's the name that they went by the majority of their life, then that's the name I use as the preferred name in Family Search or in my research. Because you'll find, especially in Germany, in the baptism record, they may have 2 or 3 middle names, a first name and a middle name, or 2 or 3 middle names. And then in the marriage record, they may be going by one of those middle names. And then you find that middle name is what they also went by in their funeral record. So, and you're going to see those differences in spellings as they go, because there wasn't a standardized spelling pattern. And as you said, they went with what sounded right, and it depended on who the priest was at the time when he was recording it as to what sounded right. Because those individuals, many of them being farmers and craftsmen, weren't literate. They couldn't read what the priest was writing anyway. So they just went with whatever was written there. I usually provide the variations in the spelling when I do it. So I'll pick one, and then I'll work with variations. Like the Garmin. In Germany, it has 2 N's. When it came to the United States, most of them switched to 1 N. But even in the same family, siblings, some of them decided to keep 2 N's and some went with 1 N, and it diverged off. So it's generations down. All of the descendants off this one line here are using 2 N's, and all of the descendants off of this brother on this line are using 1 N. And so I keep it with whatever they're using dominantly in that, in the records that I find for them. That's what I'll use as the spelling.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I wanted to show you something here. This is, I went down here and it has the related articles, so related surnames down here. So this is, let me go back, and so this one here is Westerheide, and you see the distribution here. If I go to Westerheider, you see the distribution changes a little bit. This is still the same, but then there's an area over here that pops up. And if I go to Westerheide with a Y, then you see this area is still the same as over here, but you see this other one has moved over here. So what you're seeing here are geographic variations in the spelling. So, they may move a little bit, may get married and move to a town, a few miles down, and then suddenly that priest starts writing the name a little bit differently, and you end up with these variations in the spelling, over time. And you can see which ones are most common. This one with the Y, there's only 7 individuals in this set of records. With the R at the end, there's 22, but then with Westerheide, spelled the way I spell it, there's 252. So you can see that there's a dominant characteristic for the spelling for that name. So does anybody want to give me a name, and I'll show you how we can use this to find information about your family. Anybody want to give me a yeah, Sharon? What name do you want me to use?
Bogner,
How's that spelled?
Bogner.
Okay. So,
Oh my God.
so you're pretty well distributed, but you notice this one area down here. So I'm going to try it on the legacy version and see how it comes up there. There's 1,800 hits. You see Bavaria comes up as the highest portion, Baden-Württemberg, and then North Rhine-Westphalia and Hesse. And we do this, and now you can see that the highest proportion is in Neumarkt in southwest or southeast Germany. And then there's a little area down here in München and Passau, Staubig-Borgen. So any of those sound like where your family's from? Burger? Huh?
No. but,
No.
That's interesting.
Where's your line
Because
from?
I was always told it was a rare name.
Well, it looks like it's widely spread.
I've never met another Bogner in the US.
Yeah, it says here in München, there's 144 in Bern. So, that's
what a
the secret
surprise.
right there.
Thank you.
Anybody else have another name?
Noller,
What's that one?
Noller, N-O-L-L-E-R.
Okay.
Wow.
And again,
Oh.
Baden-Württemberg predominantly,
Mhm.
552 entries. And we're looking at Schwabisch
Mhm. That's, yeah,
and Remsmer-Kreis
okay.
in that area. So, that's the area there. And I'm going to do the same name here.
Oh, my. Huh,
You see that it's very tightly correlated in here.
yeah.
Now, you see over here, these are the alternate spellings. So you see K-N-O-E-L-L-E-R, Neller, Nistler, Niller, Noller, Neller, Nabler, and
I
Noller.
didn't know that at all. How about that?
Should have checked that with Bogner and see if there's a couple, Bogner, Bachner, Bogner, and Beugner. So the variations of spelling. So if I clicked on one of these, you'll see now the distribution of names, different types of surnames and how they might be related. And then you could type in each of these different variations like Bognar, and you see the distribution is a little bit different because there's fewer of them, but they're all located down here in this area. I tend to like this map, the legacy one, somewhat better because it's easier to see. It's not laying at that strange angle.
Mm.
Did we have another name?
Stockman,
Okay, how's it spelled?
Stockman.
Okay, Stockman. So you see here in Bavaria and a little bit in the Rhineland. We go to the absolute map and you see it's not very frequent, but let's do Stockman. Notice that it gives me 1,745 hits with this spelling.
Uh-huh.
And if I go there and do the search, now you see the distribution is a little bit more widespread. And then you can see that it's actually up in here is the most common location for that name. And then you see the other regions where it's spread out a little bit more, less
Okay.
densely.
Miles,
Yes.
how about the name Gertz, Gertz?
Okay, so let's see. So pretty well spread out, but
It's quite common.
Westphalia. And over here in the Recklinghausen region is the most common.
This is current time frame, right?
That's probably right.
How about if you go back to any way to search this out in West Prussia?
Yeah, so let's let's see, figure out what names I have here. So let's try it over on this one once. I'm gonna go back to, and what was it? GERTZ 1890. And I gotta close out these. I don't want these. There we go. Okay, let's try that again. I'm gonna close that one out and get a better color. Okay, so in 1890, you see a lot of distribution going all the way out here in Prussia. We got a
Okay.
lot up here in northern Germany, and then over here in
In the Netherlands.
towards the Netherlands. This is
Yeah.
still Germany though, but
Okay.
so that's the distribution in 1890, and then in 1996, you see the distribution today.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. So do you think that this might be a helpful tool to
Oh,
get you like at least looking potentially in the right area? The
Yes.
benefit
Oh,
here is
yeah.
the benefit of here is, now you can narrow it down to a smaller region, and you can start looking in the church records and see if anything pops up for those surnames in those records. I really like the Family Search surname distribution maps page because it does have a lot of different names, a lot of different countries, and the ISOG page, has a lot of good links also. So I would recommend one or two of these. Let's see. This one here is the German directories, and that probably says that website doesn't exist, right? So let's see. Yep, website not available. So that one doesn't work right now. Again, that's the problem with links. If you're not keeping up on them, they disappear over time. Okay. Any questions on these? Does anybody want the list of pages? I have to, let me unshare this. I have to open up another page here, and I will get you the link. It's a larger handout, but at the bottom of the handout is the surname linked pages.
okay.
Miles, will you post this handout so we can print it out?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to copy the link here and put it in the chat. So there's the link to the handout, and it's like page 5 of the handout is this information. So it links to the Family Search, the Cindy's List, and the ISOG websites for those pages. So, any other questions on the surname mapping?
Miles,
Yes.
can the knowledge of religion be helpful? I have a number of ancestors who were Huguenots,
Oh,
and they had to leave southern France after the Edict of Nantes was revoked. And so it would be fun to try to find out who their ancestors were in southern France.
yeah, and those, you have Huguenot records that are specific to the groups, and they tended to be in smaller communities. So those sort of things would probably work well. Now, the question of Catholic versus Lutheran in Germany, that's not going to be very helpful.
Well,
Because that was, that's not, those are very large communities across the country. But yeah, those smaller communities like the Huguenots and other groups like that, those are definitely, will give you a lot of clues, because there are significant records for those groups, and they have very few names in them. So it's easier to search through those.
but if you find the town
Yeah,
and they were Catholic, you would search the Catholic Church record.
right. Yep. And the idea here is, with these maps, you can at least narrow it down. If the record you have says they're from Germany, you can go back and say, well, okay, they're from Germany, but they're probably from this piece of Westfalen. They're in that northern little corner, and that state is Bielefeld. So I'm going to search in the Bielefeld records and see if I can find them. And that gives you a lot less to search for. It's like, in the United States, if you can narrow it down to a county, that's a whole lot more helpful than narrowing it down to to the state.
Thank you.
Yep. So the next question is, we're taking off for the summer. We'll be back in the fall. I would like, if you guys have any ideas on topics you want to cover during beginning next year, if you can forward those ideas to me, and I will put those together and develop up a schedule for next year's talks, and maybe get some research done, figure out what I'll talk about on those. The other thing is, we still have a German program with the December IRGS meeting. And so I'll help anybody put it together. I just, I am not able to present it. So I just need, I will help put it together. Just have to find somebody who is willing to present something about German Christmas traditions. So you have time to think about it. I've already told them we'll do it, but I have until June to tell them no. So
Not gonna be here.
What's your email address?
I'll write it here. There's my email address, and if you have an idea for topics, put put German gig topic in the title, so I'll find it easier, and let me know what it is. And then we can redo topics that we did this year too, or last year, or whenever. I've done quite a few topics, so recycling an old one's easy for me.
And we need to hear it again sometimes.
Right.
Several times.
Yeah, right.
Yes. The benefit here is that, we've been recording these sessions this year, and so they are posted on the gigs link on the IRGS website. So you can always go back and watch them again if you're interested. But, that doesn't mean if I do the same talk next year, I'll say the same things. So.
That's right.
Well done.
Okay, I'm going to stop recording.